Just a small etiquette point for our collective edification. One time, Srila Prabhupada was in New York seated on Vyasasan that wasn't quite as high as that, but a nice Vyasasan. And right in the middle of Jayarada Madhava, he stopped. And he didn't say anything, he just pointed. There was a devotee, he was our GBC member, who was sitting on a seat in one of these little mats, and then next to him was his Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada stopped the kirtan and pointed and then said, where you sit should not be in the same place, same level as the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam should be elevated. Then he, like everyone, got it and resumed chanting. So sometimes devotees put the Bhagavatam on a piece of paper or something that's, put it on your lap or one of those book holders or someplace other than the same level where you're sitting. It's just to respect the Bhagavatam. And if there are guests that come and don't know that rule, don't jump on them. Just be gentle, and or don't even mention it and tell them later. Don't embarrass them. But the practicing devotees should know that etiquette principle. Hare Krishna. So this morning we're going to read through text 21, which means text 22 is tomorrow. This collection of verses have very short purports or no purports. And it's Lord Brahma has come before Hiranyakashipu, a little astonished. Yesterday's verses, he couldn't even find him because he was in an anthill covered with grass and bamboo shoots, but he saw some effulgence and some heat coming from the anthill, so then he started speaking with him. So this is this morning's verse, text 17. Shri Brahmovacha Uttishta Bhadram Te Tapak Siddhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha Shri Brahmovacha Uttishta Bhadram Te Tapak Siddhosi Kashyapa Radhadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Shri Brahmo Vacha Uttishta Bhadram Te Siddhosi Kashyapa Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Shri Brahmo Vacha Utishto tishta bhadram te tapakshidho si kashyapa. Ladies. Shri Brahmavacha Utishta Tishta Bhadram Te Tapak Siddho Chakashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsato Varaha Shri Brahmavacha Utishta Tishta Bhadram Te Tapak Siddho Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Shri Brahmavacha Utishta Tishta Bhadram Te Tapaksiddho Si Kashyapa Shri Brahma Uvacha Lord Brahma said, Utishta, please get up. Utishta, get up. That'd be a nice way to wake up devotees in the Brahmacharya ashram in the morning. Utishta, Utishta. Anyway. Bhadram, good fortune. Te, unto you. That would be nice. Utishta Bhadram Te. Time for Mangalarti. Tapa Siddha. Perfect in executing austerities. Asi, you are. Kashyapa, O son of Kashyapa. Varadaha, the giver of benediction. Aham, I. Anupraptaha, arrived. Vriyatam, let it be submitted. Ipsitaha, desired. Varaha, benediction. Translation, Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up, please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. You may now ask for me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Skanda Purana, which says that Hiranyakashipu, having become a devotee of Lord Brahma who is known as Hiranyagarbha, and having undergone severe austerities to please him, is also known as Hiranyaka. And I looked up the word yaka, and I couldn't find it. There's references, there's Yaka Upanishad and Yaka this and that, but does anybody know the word yaka means? Y-A-K-A? No Sanskrit scholars. Hiranyaka. Rakshasas and demons worship various demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, just to take the post of these demigods. This we have already explained in previous verses. So we'll go on. Translation for text 18. Brahma's continuing. I have been very much astonished to see your endurance, in spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of worms and ants. You are keeping your life air circulating within your bones. Certainly this is wonderful. And Prabhupada's astonishing purport. It appears that the soul can exist even through the bones, as shown by the personal example of Hiranyakashipu. When great yogis are in samadhi, even when their bodies are buried and their skin, marrow, blood, and so on have all been eaten, if only their bones remain, they can exist in a transcendental position. Prabhupada really goes out on a limb here. Very recently, an archaeologist published findings indicating that Lord Christ, after being buried, was exhumed, and he then went to Kashmir. There have been many examples of yogis being buried in trance and exhumed alive and in good condition several hours later. A yogi can keep himself alive in a transcendental state, even if buried, not only for many days, but for many years. Then he would say, prove me wrong. Text 19. Rama continues, even saintly persons like Bhrigu, born previously, could not perform such severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so who within these three worlds can sustain his life without even drinking water for 100 celestial years? ? Purport, it appears that even if a yogi does not drink a drop of water, he can live for many, many years by the yogic process, though his outer body be eaten by ants and moths. Text 20, translation. My dear son of Diti, with your great determination and austerity, you have done what was impossible even for great saintly persons, and thus I have certainly been conquered by you. Jita means conquered. Krishna is Ajita, and one who is conquered is Jita. Prabhupada's purport. In regard to the word Jita, Srila Madhva Muni gives the following quotation from the Shabda Nirnaya as follows. Parabhutam vashastam cha jita bid uchate budhai. Translation. If one comes under someone else's control or is defeated by another, he is called Jita. Hiranyakashipu's austerity was so great and wonderful that even Lord Brahma agreed to be conquered by him. And then the last of Lord Brahma's statements here. Text 21. Oh, best of the Asuras, best of the Asuras. Asura Dwaj is usually, oh, here it is. Asura Pungava. Asura Pungava. O best of the Asuras, for this reason I am now prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. And Prabhupada's purport. It appears that human beings and asuras are subject to death, whereas demigods are not. The demigods who reside with Lord Brahma in Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha Loka in their present bodily constructions at the time of dissolution. Therefore, although Hiranyakashipu had undergone severe austerities, Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die. He could not become immortal or even gain equal status with the demigods. The great austerities and penances he had performed for so many years could not give him protection from death. This was foretold by Lord Brahma. So if you recall, before Lord Brahma comes, before Hiranyakashipu, he's already been informed by the demigods his intention, his determination, his motivation, his sankalpa. They already knew. And the previous verse indicates when he came, there were others with him. Bhrigu, whose reference is made in this series of verses, Daksha, and we know how powerful and influential and so forth was Daksha, and other great sages. So it wasn't just a solo one-on-one. It's like a little collection of superlative sages and the Lord Brahma. So Hiranyakashipu, although he's an asura, he had captured the attention, and more than captured the attention, he had conquered, which was his intention. He had conquered Lord Brahma and all these great sages. That's a powerful asura. And what we heard previously of the extent of his austerities, just never before, it's exactly as Brahma said, never before has something like this been done, and never in the future will something like this be done. It's just one of a kind. You're the best. You're the greatest. I am the greatest. Yes, you're the greatest. So he's using some diplomacy, Lord Brahma. He's referring to him as the son of Kashyapa. So one of the things that in Vedic culture, at least, referring to someone by their ancestry, it invokes respect for the person coming with great ancestry. In this case, it's just his father. Kashyapa Muni was one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma speaking. So, on the one hand, he's reaffirming his superior position as Kashyapa is very, very exalted, and you're his son, so you're exalted. I'm the father of Kashyapa, so Grandpa, Lord Brahma. So he's puffing him up, or not, he's invoking his higher nature, higher quality, by addressing him as the son of Kashyapa, and he's at the same time establishing very politely, very gently, but clearly his position, superior position. And in Vedic culture, when someone is in a superior position, even demons who are prone to follow Vedic culture, modern people just don't follow anything, but those that within the system of Vedic culture, as is Hiranyakashipu, then due respect goes to that superior person. That's how he begins. And then Uttishta, his part, this repetition is literary-wise, it's an ornament. And it's another kind of respect. I'm standing. Please stand. Please, let us. How to say it properly? It's an expression of respect. Please rise. And Bhadram Te, we heard this already, where the demigods are speaking like that to Lord Brahma. All auspiciousness, all good fortune to you, Bhadram Te. So now he's extending that. So it's the greeting is warm, respectful, and encouraging. Although he knows his disposition. He wants to bump off Lord Brahma. Or if he can't bump off Lord Brahma, become the next Lord Brahma. And so he knows his ambition, but speaking very, very pleasingly. Uttishta, Uttishta, Bhadram Te, son of Kashyapa. What I'm sharing here is culture. Lord Brahma is our original preceptor in our sampradaya. So we can learn from him about culture when, we're from the nation of no culture. The culture of no culture. Can learn how to be cultured. So it's nice. Nice instruction. This word vara in this verse appears a couple of times. Vara is that which he wishes to give. Vara is a benediction. I wish to give benediction. He's come to give, he's not come to take. He's to respect, and I've come to give. Then that's like announcing his mission or his reason for coming before him. He doesn't have to guess, what's up here. I've not come to harm you. I've not come to anything. I've come to give you benediction. And the reason for that is succinctly stated. You're perfect in your austerities. And commonly, those that do some austerity, they have a purpose behind the austerity. And his is a passion ignorance intention behind his austerity, but he doesn't question his intention. He knows what his intention is, and continuing further, he's giving a little hint that you want immortality? Your Lord Brahma and the demigods don't die like humans die. Demigods also die. Lord Brahma also dies. In Brihat Bhagavatamrita, when Gopal Kumar goes to visit Lord Brahma, he's so appreciative of his position. Excuse me, this is Narada. Narada goes to Lord Brahma, he goes, no, 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 no. I'm in anxiety. If not tomorrow, the next day, I'm going to die. And then what? Of course, he's expressing like that, and Lord Brahma isn't so weakened by bodily attachment, but just making the expression, they're quite knowledgeable. They will also die. But their position, we're hearing in Prabhupada's purport, their position is different in that, in some cases, they may not also, they may go to the spiritual world. In Brahma Samhita, the verse where Brahma is speaking about the post of Lord Brahma, there's a detailed explanation of the destination of Lord Brahma, in case you ever wondered, is not fixed. It's not every Lord Brahma goes to Vaikuntha. There's like 6 different options that different Brahmas may do this and that and the other. Here Prabhupada is making reference to one, and for well-read devotees, when you read something in one place, it doesn't exclude other options that may be also elucidated in other places. It's important that just how readers should read. One reference is insufficient. Multiple references and taking the big picture of those multiple references is advisable. So at least in this case, Prabhupada is explaining one of the meanings, how the demigods and Lord Brahma do not die like mortals, mortal humans. One is that they live long time, long time. Wonderful longevity, but although they must also die. So they don't die like mortals, that's one way. They live long time. And this other is, they may, just like we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam that the Pandavas did the same. They ascended in their self-same bodies. Their bodies became so spiritualized. In their self-same bodies, they attained, they went to Krishna. That's not ordinary. There's other not-so-ordinary things mentioned in this little section. But demigods may do like that. Then he goes on, Lord Brahma speaking about, he's already stated you have perfection of austerities, tapa siddha, perfect austerities. Now he describes some details about those perfect austerities. Endurance is mentioned, that it's also mentioned that his body was completely eaten, leaving only bones. When you get like an insect bite, what happens to your attention? What to speak of, some piece of your body is being yanked out by that insect. Ritadvaja Swami, some of you know Ritadvaja Swami, he was describing to me at the Houston temple, there's a certain type of ant, I forget what it's called, but it eats flesh. There's a certain name for them, and they so they had to take care of that on the Houston temple property, because kids would go play in the grass, and the ants would start eating at their bodies. So Ritadvaja Swami for years worked with a Gurukula project for boys in Alachua, and one of the boys said, he took a wage. They bet him that he couldn't put his hand inside the anthill of these particular kinds of ants. He put his hand into the ant hole, and he had to be taken to the hospital. His whole hand was, double the size and all red, and pieces of flesh taken out and off to the hospital, because it's not just they eat, they just inject some kind of something, poisonous something. I don't know the science of it. So that's the kind of ant, the ant hill that had eaten away his body. I mean, how much tolerance and how much determination. And not only that, he was a mystic. He knew how to take his life airs. Prabhupada describes this in lectures. He could circulate his life airs through the marrow or the hollow of the bones. And that way the soul didn't leave, because when the body is kaput, the soul leaves. That's what death is. The body is no longer fit for habitation, the soul leaves. See you later. That's death. He didn't die. So enduring the pain and maintaining his determination, mystic yogi circulating life airs within the marrow of his bones. And then Prabhupada elaborates. There's other yogis that have done such things. In samadhi, okay, now you can bury me, and bury him under the earth and cover the earth up, and like you do when somebody's dead, but he's not dead, he's just in samadhi, and then uncover and there he is in samadhi, and then voila, and go, oh, he must be God. And then Prabhupada goes on not only for hours, for days, and for years. That these aren't ordinary people. But Hiranyakashipu was more than that. 100 celestial years. 100 celestial years. Of course, no water. What do you need water for if you don't have a body? But no, not only fasting, like what the austerities that Dhruva did, just before, just air, just breathing. Before that was water every, whatever it was, once a month. These are very severe. It's not meant for Kali Yuga. We have another kind of sacrifice to perform. Sacrifice of the chanting of the holy name. But extreme. And now, just a little comment. Prabhupada was, I've been part of discussions of how Prabhupada would say extreme things. He wouldn't say that it was a fact, necessarily. He would say that some people say. So that's what he does here with Christ. Some people say. That he was exhumed and then he went to Kashmir, some people say. Now for Prabhupada to say, some people say, it's pretty strong. Some people say, well, even, some people say all kinds of crazy things. But if some other person said, well, no, it's not so because he's not exposed to that. It's just, all I said was some people say. But in any case, something that Prabhupada said was Christ didn't die. Maybe you've heard that. He said it's a misunderstanding. The religion, one of the major takes within Christianity is that Christ died for our sins. It's major. So he accepted all the sins of all the people of the world. He gave his life accepting the sins of the whole world. So if you just accept him, all your sins are gone. That's the theology of what do you do. We have our Bhagavad 6th canto theology of what is the antidote, what is the prevention for people who have to suffer sin. And at least one version of Christianity says, you accept Christ who died for our sins. That's his compassion. He died for our sins. You accept him, and your sins are also gone. Just accept him. And presto. Now Prabhupada's, just say it again, Prabhupada's saying it's a misunderstanding. He didn't die. And it's something like Haridas Thakur being beaten in so many marketplaces. He didn't die. Although one could, an ordinary person would never, what the guards said, the people that are beating him, no one has ever lived past 3 or 4 marketplaces. They've never lived. And not only you lived, but there's no sign of fatigue. So surely we can understand you're a saintly person, and we're here we've just been beating you. But not only we're going to get reaction for beating you, but the Kazi, when he finds that we didn't do it, we weren't successful in killing you, he'll kill us. Anyway, back to the statements of this purport. The statement is not that a highly elevated saintly person doesn't die. It's specific. It's specific to say yogis that know how to enter into a state of trance, a samadhi. They're still within the body, although the body is apparently not functioning. Breath is suspended. Who can live without breathing? But yogis may know how to do that. At least in Hiranyakashipu's case, suspending the life airs, because the soul is situated on the life airs. There's resting on the life airs and carried by the life airs. So if you move the life airs, you can move the soul and go places, and or stay, or at will. It's subtle science. But when the life airs leave, and when the soul leaves, that's death. So this isn't speaking about burying somebody when they're dead, it's burying somebody when they're in the state of samadhi. In any case, Lord Brahma is expressing awe at the capacity of Hiranyakashipu. And then saying, Jitta, you have conquered me. You have defeated me. I am before you as your obedient Shishya. Please instruct me. What benedictions would you like? And note that what he said in the very beginning is, I will try to fulfill your desire. But the last part he's saying is, you want immortality. The demigod told me, you want immortality, but it's not going to happen. Because you've been born in the human society, you're going to die. So hint, don't ask for immortality, because it's not going to happen. Of course, he asked for immortality. And then he's told again, you won't get it. I can't give you immortality. And the mission, just as a reminder, the mission is to satisfy or respond to the appeal of the demigods. The universe is in great danger because of his austerities. Please check it. So he's minimally stop the austerities. So he's doing the austerities because he wants something, and Lord Brahma is saying, I'll give you that something. Please stop your austerities. Because the heat and the disturbance of the whole universe is too much. That was the message from the demigods, and they're very afraid. So it's do something to reduce that something. It's kind of like a government officer may do something to prevent somebody who's causing disturbance for other people within the society. But he's so powerful. Essentially, the demigods were saying, Hiranyakashipu wants to do austerities because he understands that's what you did, Lord Brahma, in order to get the post of Lord Brahma, so he's going to do austerities to get the post of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is saying, these austerities are greater than the austerities that I have the capacity to do, or Brigu, or anyone else. So you're superior. You've achieved it. You've demonstrated it, your superiority, austerity-wise. And then the last point I'd like to make is, specifically, he's an asura, which means austerities that are not for the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. There's no satisfaction of the personality of Godhead in the picture at all. He doesn't acknowledge the personality of Godhead. He wants to be his own idea of what is God. Because he doesn't accept there's God, he just wants to be the most powerful person in the universe. That's Lord Brahma. So he wants to be Lord Brahma. In his estimation, his calculation, that's becoming God. No, it's silly. Fundamentally silly. Become God. I mean, there are persons, he's one, that have such an aspiration. Impersonalists are another, have the aspiration, and it's silly. You don't become God. God is God. But still, they want to become God. So it's like it's a post, and somebody's occupying it, and I want to occupy it. It's illogical. But that's how determined. We can learn a lesson from these personalities. How determined. How determined. Fundamentally determined. Jarasandha is another one. How determined. He was defeated again and again and again and again. And he just kept coming back for more. Determined, determined, determined. His mission was diabolical, or atheistic, or anti-Krishna. But so determined. So we can learn something from these personalities who are very determined. Now our determination, sankalpa, is one where it's dependent, not independent, but dependent on. So we can still, like Mother Jasoda's binding Krishna. How determined was Mother Jasoda to bind Krishna? She didn't give up. She was relentless. Out of her maternal affection, not out of, I'm going to get him. It was her parental affection was greatly determined. And Krishna supplies that. He says in Bhagavad Gita that he gives the determination to those who want something. He's the source of that determination. So for devotees, even to be determined to become Krishna conscious, or to overcome our frailties, just like yesterday evening, this anishtata bhakti stage, where being unable to fulfill that which we know will be beneficial for us, or to refrain from those things that we know are detrimental to us. Our determination may be weak, our spiritual strength may be weak. So where does that spiritual strength come from if we're weak? not just by crying or throwing your hands up in the air and say, I quit. It's striving in a dependent and serious and intentional manner to please Krishna, and to please Krishna, receiving his mercy to please Krishna. We have those opportunities at smaller stages always. And then there's the next, and then there's the next. There's the challenges that are placed before us are it somehow works this way. They just keep slowly appearing and becoming greater. Anyone that's been practicing devotional service for some time will know what I'm talking about. It's just impetus for surrender and further dependence upon Krishna. And then some ability, some strength, some capacity, some something Krishna supplies. And then, that crisis is over, and then comes another one. And then comes another one, and then comes another one. It's Krishna's kindness in helping us come to pure devotional service, unmixed devotional service, where there's nothing. Just like, the initial position of bhakti is where Krishna should be pleased. So it helps us to get to the position where there's nothing but Krishna being pleased. And then in that condition, anything becomes possible. The impossible becomes possible. It's nice. It's very nice. It's a life of devotion. Krishna Das Kaviraj states the same thing this way. The one who has implicit faith in Lord Chaitanya, mission impossible becomes possible. A blind man can see the stars in the sky. A lame man can climb mountains. Anybody that's had, something that's wrong with your legs, like me. There was a time when just walking up the stairs was, Tamahara had his knee replacement thing. And we were visiting someplace together, and he had to walk upstairs, and he said, well, the physiotherapist said it's good. Just now is time. You've done your exercises now from time to time, not too much, but you walk upstairs, it's good for you. But, then climb a mountain. A lame man climb a mountain. That's like a contradiction. Can't. But a lame man can climb a mountain. A blind man can see the stars in the sky. And a complete fool can understand the conclusions of the absolute truth by mercy of Lord Chaitanya, just by having implicit faith in him. So implicit faith means you do something, like reading Bhagavad Gita. A newer devotee may not understand Bhagavad Gita's message. What do I do? There's something wrong with me, or I'm dull, or it's too something. Just with faith, because there's this, our life of devotion includes very, very wonderful descending mercy factor. So it's not just us. We're not alone. We could feel lonely and helpless and all those things. But in a life of devotion, it's not only not necessary, the suffering of material existence is totally unnecessary. If we just accept the shelter of Krishna as we're striving with the right means and the right purpose, we're sure of success. We're sure of success. The process works. And we can see in the lives of those who strive in that way, it may take some time, sustained over time, but assured of success. Our effort and descending mercy, both are necessary. And we're assured of success. Follow carefully, very sincerely, very carefully, follow, and depend on Krishna for success. That's the formula. Now, Hiranyakashipu didn't have the depend upon Krishna for success component. Very powerful. And Demons can also be very powerful, but where are they driving their power from? From the same place the devotees are driving their power from. But Krishna's, or the Supreme Lord's feature, he's Bhaktavatsala. He shows special favor to his devotee. Why? Because the devotee is depending upon him, whereas the Hiranyakashipu-like persons aren't depending on him. So he's just reciprocating with their inclination towards him. It's not partial. It's natural. Completely understandable. So we have this fundamental choice to make in our life. Do we want to be with Krishna? That's bhakti. And to be with Krishna means we want to please him. We want to love him. We want his happiness. And that's our happiness. That's the Bhagavatam is teaching us how to get there. And Hiranyakashipu is teaching us some lessons about what won't get us there. Be very powerful because of calculated, extreme efforts. Not going to get you there. Okay, so any discussion? Yes? What is the austerity of praying to the demigods? Why does somebody do that?
What causes the demigods to be disturbed by his austerities? What is the disturbance that's like? Does it literally
Why were they disturbed, is your question?
Yeah, why are they disturbed by someone doing austerities? What causes them to be disturbed?
Well, the whole order of the universe, the intention was, because when one does austerity, there's a power that goes to that person from the austerity. And his intention was to reverse the order of things in the universe. And they're the controllers on behalf of Lord Vishnu. They're the controllers of the universe. And here's this other person doing radically severe austerities that wishes to reverse the order of the universe. So they were unable to do their service. I mean, aside from, in addition, they're attached to their position, and they're attached to being controllers. That's why they're controllers. They like being controllers. But, there's the service part, and everything's going to be upside down. And he's unbelievably powerful. He's more powerful than us. We're afraid of him. And he wants to turn us upside down and the whole universe upside down.
And another quick question. So you're saying about samadhi. Does that mean when eternally liberated souls, when they come to this material world to teach, when they supposedly leave their body or die, are they actually within their body still, just in samadhi?
I didn't get the question.
When a pure devotee goes through death.
When a pure devotee leaves his body.
But are they leaving their body, or are they just in samadhi within
their body? When pure devotees also leave their bodies.
Okay.
They leave their body behind and they go to Krishna. The soul goes to Krishna, the body's left behind.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, here in one of the verses, demigods refer.
In regard to?
Demigods refer to Brahma, that the three worlds are suffering, are under trouble because of the heat generated from the austerities of the Hiranyakashipu. And actually,
most of us can't understand. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, the demigods, they're saying to Lord Brahma, we're suffering because of the heat from the austerities of Hiranyakashipu.
Suffering three worlds. They say three worlds there. But in the universe there are 14 planets, no?
In the universe there's what?
There are 14 planets.
They say
14 planetary systems?
How do we understand? 3 worlds, but 14 planetary
How do we relate them?
The numbers of 3 and 14, how does it work?
Yeah.
That's your question?
Yes,
Okay. Take the microphone away from him. How, it's just a different perspective. So, the 3 are the upper, middle, and lower. That makes 3. There's another way of looking at the upper, middle, lower. Instead, looking at it as 14. What's that? 14 upper, 7 upper, 7 lower. Makes 14. You know, Bhur Loka, Bhuvar Loka, Swarga Loka, that's 3. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, that's 7. That's the upper. And then there's 7 lower. Makes 14. So it's another way of looking at the same thing. It's 14 instead of 3. Is that what answers your question? Not exactly. You're smiling. You're laughing. So let's do it this way. Another example of the same thing is in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It describes the material elements as being 8 in number. Right? Bina Prakritir Ashtada. 8. Then there's another system that says there's 24. So which is it, 8 or is it 24? It's just another way of analyzing the material elements. It's another system. 8 and 24 are both right. Not one is more right and the other is less right. They're both right. Just different systems. And it can be detailed to say, how do you get 24 out of 8? But it's similarly 3 or 14. Just different systems. We do it all the time in our everyday life. Let's say, here's another example. To get from point A to point B, one way, you get a road map. That's one way to get from point A to point B. Another is you go on, the places that tell you turn left after so many feet and so many miles, and that's another way to get there. Another way is a GPS. Another way is you get a globe out. And then there's multiple other ways. But it's just how to get from point A to point B. There are different systems for doing the same thing. And there's another one. I can give some more. Geocentric and heliocentric models of the universe. It's just different models. It's just a different way of looking at the same thing. And it's allowed. 3 and 14. Vedic. It's allowed. That's how you get it. You okay? No, the smile went away. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, up front.
Thank you, Maharaj. My question was, it said that these residents on Brahmaloka go back to Godhead in their same body.
Some do, sometimes.
But I understood that that's a heavenly planet, Brahma's body made of intelligence, so it seems like a contradiction.
Something can become spiritualized, something that's, because everything comes from spirit, including the material elements. It's a separated material energy, but it can become fully spiritualized. That's how it's possible. Yes.
Krishna, at the last section of your lecture, you were talking about having implicit faith in Krishna and striving to please Him in what we're doing, despite the adversities, just having that faith in Krishna. So my question is, one may have faith, but based on that faith, one keeps applying and trying to please Krishna. But maybe a circumstance or due to whatever the service is, the situation not be changing in spite of trying to address the situation in different ways. How to understand what is Krishna indicating?
How to understand?
What is Krishna indicating? Because you do have faith.
How to understand? What's the phrase?
Krishna, what is he indicating to you?
What is he indicating to you? Well, that's the $64,000 question, isn't it?
Yes.
And and circumstances of life continue to change. And they continue to change, and they continue to change. So, there's a lot of different ways to respond to the question you're asking. A real short answer is, we will not know until we become Krishna conscious. Or the reverse is, one who is Krishna conscious, that person will know. And until then, it's less than clear. But still we have to act, we have to live our lives. So that's another question, how do we move forward when you're not really clear? What's Krishna's indication? That wasn't your question. Your question was, how do we know? That's really the question. Okay. I wrote a little essay maybe 20 years ago on this. And I probably would want to go back and look at it again, because 20 years ago I may not have gotten it exactly right. But in some cases, just pause and wait till something that's not clear becomes clear, or wait for some indication or sign that tells you turn left or turn right, or whatever, go backwards or something. But sometimes, so that's one option. Just pause and wait for some indication. But some things, you have to do something. You have to turn left or right. That indecision is another decision. So you turn left or turn right. You have to, of options. There may be even in that pause space, if one is practiced at the reflection, mode of goodness kind of reflection, not what's my desire, and you just leave those things to the side. What's Krishna's desire? It may be yet another thing of what Krishna wants besides left or right. So, but if it's not clear and that action is required, then you take a cautious step, one or the other, which seems to be most appropriate, for serving Krishna. Being, antennas up, really looking to see, does Krishna want this? And if there's some indication from Krishna that Krishna doesn't want this, be very, gently detached and retrace your steps and go the other direction. See, and same, wait to see the indication from Krishna. Is this, and as we heard Radhanath Maharaj describing, expect that there'll be mistakes. And we wish to learn from the mistakes. And the mistakes aren't always, it's not necessarily that Krishna didn't want that, it's maybe the spirit that we were carrying when doing what Krishna wanted. The consciousness behind the action. So there's all kinds of, to become a pure devotee it's a lot of sacrifice. and a lot of very strong desire to be in tune with what Krishna wants. So just asking the question, you're a good distance, maybe say generously, 50% there, just by asking that question. Because then there's a receptivity for Krishna to give some indication. But he may not give the 100% indication, just some indication of something. So we try to connect with Krishna. Now I'll just add another thing. It's kind of like an embellishment to the second question, which was your question. One of the biggest problems in doing what Krishna wants is the stain or contamination of doership. But what I mean by that is, supposing one asks, this happens in life, supposing there's a situation where we ask for some clear indication on something, how to improve my chanting, or just like, you missed at the beginning, but there's a little presentation I gave on etiquette of Prabhupada instructed right in the middle of Jayarada Madhava. He stopped and had a devotee our GBC member, who had his Bhagavatam on the floor on top of a little mat next to him, and said, you can't have the Bhagavatam in the same position as where you're sitting. Okay, so then there's an instruction, whatever it is. And then, okay, now doership, I'm going to go do it. I got this nice instruction, I'm going to go do it. Instead of staying in the position of, I'm executing an instruction, I'm acting in my relationship with Krishna. The doership mentality spoils everything, even you do the right thing. It may not, that's not the right consciousness to be in when you're doing the right thing. And that's what Krishna consciousness requires. Ultimately, is that bhakti, as we were hearing yesterday evening, for the satisfaction of Krishna consciousness. That's the consciousness, even when doing the right thing. Because the wrong consciousness can spoil the outcome. Krishna is not pleased. That's the spoiling of the outcome. So really the essence of to do what Krishna wants is to be in the consciousness of doing what Krishna wants. That's really the cultivation requirement. You take the other thing. Even if you do something that's not what Krishna wants, if you're in the consciousness of sincerely trying to please Krishna. Like a classic example that comes to mind is when Krishna had gone to Hastinapur to arrange for peace settlement. He was invited to take a royal situation. He declined. Instead, he wanted to stay at the house of Vidura. And Vidura's wife was in such ecstasy. There are different versions in Mahabharata. One was she fed Krishna the banana peels instead of the banana. And Krishna ate them because of the devotion with which she offered. She just was so excited at having the opportunity to serve Krishna. Another version said she fed him porridge. This is Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's, it's a British term, porridge. Inferior quality food. But she was very pleased. Or, Krishna and Sudama with the broken rice. That's not what you go to offer Krishna, broken rice. So it's the consciousness that's the essence of doing that which Krishna wants. That's the essence. And it's very easy to get, we're very habituated to false ego, to doing that which we understand to be right and just, doing it is right. And, the consciousness isn't right, and therefore it makes disturbance to ourselves and others. It's subtle, but it's the essence of our Krishna consciousness. It's a small point, But it's one of the most important points of all in doing what Krishna wants, is the spirit of wanting to do what Krishna wants for his pleasure. That's bhakti. And bhakti, then everything gets adjusted by Krishna. Jitendriya. She has one more, a follow-up.
No.
Hang on. She's going to do the follow-up, and then you get the microphone. Go ahead.
Can I have a one-on-one follow-up, because there are quite a few questions with you later?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. We have some scheduled time, don't we?
Could you explain the expression that I've heard you use, sometimes your best isn't good enough? Do you remember saying that? Sometimes your
I
best...
said good intention isn't good enough.
Oh,
Good intention.
I thought on one occasion I heard you say, maybe your best isn't good enough.
No, good intention isn't good enough. That's the phrase.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
intention isn't good enough. As far as best, it's your, that's it. Well, what do you mean by best? If the sincerity is behind whatever it is, that's good enough. But then on the other hand, the devotee is thinking, well, that's not good enough. I have to actually deliver the best.
I heard another expression, the road to hell is paved with good
Good
intentions.
intentions. Yeah, I've heard that one before. I've been down that road before. Something else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.